there, welcome back to another video. This is Ramona, and this is the Smell of Logic channel, where we're reading Reddit advice, stories, comments, personal things, that kind of thing. This one's supposed to be very serious. What is the worst thing you have ever done? Hopefully these aren't too graphic or horrible. Before we get into all the seriousness, though, if you like to color or read, go check out my Amazon authors page. I've got some novels with links over there. There's links in the description here of all the videos, of course. But if you enjoy coloring like I do, because it's relaxing and stress relief, there's new coloring books released every week. A lot of variety there. Go check it out. Maybe you know someone who does, like that sort of stuff. Go check that out. Anyway, so before we get into this also, I appreciate everyone who has subscribed and you watching the videos. If you don't mind, maybe if you do like this video or any of my videos, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But here we go. What is the worst thing you have ever done? Hope these are not too triggering for anybody. Accidentally revealed that there is something big hidden under my hometown. That's not good. Now I want to know, but okay. Probably skipping a few funerals. At least worse in how I feel about it now. I grabbed a little boy from his ankle and held him over a well. He didn't fall, but he could have. I still think about it to this day. That was more than 20 years ago. I've gotten into fights with people where I have beaten them so badly I know that they will never be the same again. Not in a physical sense, but in an emotional, mental sense. I smashed a lunch tray over a kid's head for talking shit on my family. Relax, it was plastic. I changed somebody's life by beating them so badly that they almost passed out. It was deserved. I don't feel bad, but I know that it was wrong. I don't want to say, but I'm definitely going to hell. I quit a job after 2 hours. Kept forgiving my husband for his affairs and believing that I was to blame. Finalizing the divorce, hopefully soon. I was so frustrated with my then boss, a franchise owner of a popular coffee shop, for embarrassing me for no reason in front of other customers. So the next day I did a no-call, no-show and contacted corporate, pretending to be a customer that found mice droppings in their coffee cup. There was a mice problem, so I took advantage of that fact. I then claimed that I had asked to speak to the manager, but she refused to come out of her office. Well, several days later, I was at the store and ran into a coworker. They told me that someone from corporate came in that same day and fired the franchise owner. I'm not going to lie. I felt great at first. Then, after a little bit of thinking about it, I realized what a shithead I was. The last time I saw her, she was hiding in the corner of her husband's corner store, avoiding eye contact at all costs. I may have fucked with her and her family's livelihood. I didn't think it through beforehand, and I regret it. A friend of mine and I made a mini ring out of snow to wrestle in about 30 years ago in my backyard. I remember he said, "Yep, raised by a bitch, so now you fight like a girl," referencing my single mother working 3 jobs at the time. I kneed him as hard as I could, 5 or 7 times, right in the junk, as if I had a head, as I had half mount. He laid there crying for quite some time. We are still friends. He's never talked about it again, though. Sexually harassing my grandmother. I was 11 years old. God, I hope she didn't notice, and really, I regret it a lot. I don't know what was going through my head at the time. Just that whole stage of my life was summed up with, well, I was very horny. I think in case my grandmother did find out, she has forgiven me. I have been an ideal grandson, and every time I see her, I feel like crying or just getting down on my knees to apologize to her. Being horny makes you do terrible things. If you have children, siblings, or cousins who are entering puberty, talk to them about these things. In the end, it ends up doing great harm. I chose to be with him over talking to my friends, and now I have no one, no job, and not much of anything else, and I'm stuck in this situation until I can find a job and make enough money to leave. I led on someone I had no interest in. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and glued it on my face when I was Moses in my hero school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and blamed it on the dog. When my mom sent me to summer camp for fat kids, and then they served lunch, I went nuts and pigged out, and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I've ever done, I mixed a pot of fake puke at home and then went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up the balcony, and then made a noise like, throwing up. And then I dumped it all over the side, all over the people in the audience. And then, this was horrible, all the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my life. Pretty sure I've included that story in another one of these videos like this, so I'm sorry for the double take, but obviously this person felt obligated to share it more than once, on more than one thread. As a kid, I broke a high schooler's jaw and teeth. I was in 1st grade, and the private school had up to high school. I'd gone to the restroom, and 3 of them came in and tossed me around. I couldn't handle it and jumped on one, bit his shoulder, caused him to fall onto the ground, making the break. Got thrown into a stall and got called into the office once the professors saw us. In 9th grade, a 10th grader who was a football star wouldn't stop bullying me. He stuck his foot out, heel side up to trip me, and I stepped on it. He hopped around from the pain and went and ratted on me. But I told the principal that I had not seen the bully's foot, which the security camera backed up, given my footstep. Of course, I really had done it on purpose. I got off scot-free, and the bully was reprimanded for attempting to trip me. The injury was bad enough that he couldn't play in the Wisconsin State Football Championship that Saturday, 2 days after, and my high school lost by a field goal. I accidentally broke my ex-bully's nose when he was trying to console me once. I meant to just wave him away, didn't realize I'd hit him and broke his nose, and then didn't realize I'd done it until I was called into the office. Let myself become an alcoholic. I put a fork in a microwave when I was a child, burned down an entire apartment building. Thankfully, everyone managed to get out in time. It was a really scary situation. I lied on Reddit. Cherry bombing a toilet at church. I stabbed a metal spike through someone's arm. It wasn't self-defense, but still not good. Broke into an old abandoned wood shop that was deep in the woods, took some stuff, only to find out that one of the guys with us went outside with a fire extinguisher, sprayed it everywhere, and got us caught. Didn't get into any legal trouble, thankfully, but was absolutely humbled. When I was young and naive, I was completely in love with my boss, who had just strung me along and used me for sex. He was also sleeping with another girl at work, but he managed to convince me that she was crazy and trying to come between us. She started to be too much trouble for him. He wanted her gone and couldn't really do anything himself without getting himself in trouble. He convinced me to be really horrible to her at the point where she quit. He said she'd complain about me and that he'd have my back. So I went up to her and said the nastiest, meanest shit I've ever said directly to anyone. Horrible, mean, personal attacks. Everyone else at work was men and friends with the boss. They all knew what was going on. Toxic boy club culture. And lied for me and my boss when that girl complained to the higher-ups about both of us. She quit. About a year later, he moved on to another girl at work and actually liked her enough to commit to her, only after she found out that he was sleeping with me and gave him an ultimatum. I was absolutely distraught. Then it suddenly hit me that he'd been this person all along, and what I'd done to that other girl was absolutely horrible. I'd stolen money from someone poorer than me. I robbed a drunk guy, threatened to leave my grandpa, done nothing with someone who was abused. I spread a rumor about a classmate. The worst thing I've ever did isn't that bad. Just stole a Lego truck when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. Worst thing that someone did to me was, when I was arguing with my sister a lot, she would constantly tell me to go kill myself, and because of that, I dropped out and got so drunk that I was about to cut my own throat. Slept with someone in my ex's bed. We'd been broken up for a week or so and hadn't loved each other for months prior. Trust that was just a fart. When I was a little kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, a family friend's daughter was with us at the beach, about the same age as me. She found a shark tooth and I said, "Oh, let me see." And then I threw it in the water when she handed it to me. To this day, I have no idea why I did that, but I still remember it. I was not an asshole, I swear. It was just very out of character. Told my dad I didn't love him when I grabbed my things before leaving for the last time. He's old and we barely speak, considering he's a really bad guy in general. I still regret it, though, thinking about him, lonely, on a hospital bed. My boss fired me, so I effed her husband. Not calling for help when I realized he wasn't waking up. So many what ifs, so many horrible mistakes that I made from overthinking and not just going with my gut, even if it meant upsetting a few along the way. I probably would have been in a completely different outcome, maybe happy as a family, working together to raise our daughter. My mental health actually worked on, and not these 3 years of horrible shit that I didn't think would really happen to me. It's ridiculous and sad. I had a stalker who caused me a lot of trouble when I was 19, coming to my work or local pub, stealing underwear off the line. Got my number and would text me flat out about how good he was and I'd never get anyone better. On New Year's, I was planning on hooking up with a guy, Ryan, who I had a crush on, and he wanted to kiss me at midnight. I saved him in my phone, and we were messaging back and forth about how excited we were that we were meeting at midnight. Then he got super clingy and started talking about how I've made him the happiest man in the world, how he'd protect me, even about marriage, etc. And I was like, calm down, dude. But then he said something that Ryan hadn't known about. It clicked in my drunk brain. I changed Ryan's contact to Hot Ryan and Stalker to Stalker Ryan, and they had the same name, and just as I was messaging my soon-to-be boyfriend, the stalker had texted me, and I continued the conversation. I didn't sugarcoat it. Sorry, I don't want to kiss you. I didn't mean anything I said. I meant to send it to the guy I do like. I don't like you. He had a complete meltdown, cursing me out. Fair enough. It was one of the worst things I've done. I became dangerously obsessed with an ex-partner for roughly 4 years after they broke up with me. I would stalk their social media, play Messenger with their friends, talk about them nonstop, post about them, and developed homicidal ideation against them at some point. I hate to say it, but it took someone currently being obsessed over me to realize how bad I'd gotten and the damage I'd done to them. I guess that's karma. I can't imagine the trauma I caused them for those 4 years. I used several women for sex and led them on when I was younger. Even gave one chlamydia before telling her I didn't want a relationship. I was basically objectifying women, manipulating them to get what I wanted. I'm truly upset at the person I was, and no matter how messed up I was in the terms of mental health, it can't be used as justification. If I could go back and tell all these women I'm sorry, I would, but that would just be reopening wounds for some of them. So I do everything I can now to be a good and caring person to everyone I meet and treat everyone with respect. I don't recognize that old me anymore, and I'm highly disgusted by my actions. When I was little, maybe about 10, I went to a daycare before and after school. There was this kid that was going to be starting at the same school and daycare as me, and I was told by the staff that his father had just died. Because my dad had died a few years earlier, they thought maybe he and I could be friends, and I could help him in some way. That didn't happen. This kid was the most annoying person I'd ever met, and not only myself but all the other kids and even some staff would bully and tease him. My family had known this kid's family somehow, and had been told to me that the kid's dad had committed suicide by shooting himself. One day on the bus, the kid starts talking about how his dad died by getting hypothermia from falling in his pool while cleaning it during the winter. Being a stupid kid myself, I said, "No, he didn't. Your dad killed himself. Don't lie. My family told me." That night, his mom called my house and sat on the phone with my hand over the mouthpiece while his mom cried on the phone to my mom, asking why I would say something like that and how upset her son was. I received one of the worst beatings I'd ever gotten that night. I got kicked off the basketball team at school. It was a dark time for me as a child, and I felt like I didn't know what I had done wrong other than upset people because I wasn't telling a lie. I was the only one telling the truth. But as I got older, I realized I had told someone the truth about their father before his family thought he was ready. That the kid wasn't lying when he said he thought his dad died of hypothermia, but that he was told a lie because he was so young and his family was trying to protect him. I think about it all the time, and I wonder if she told him what really happened at some point. What he remembers, what I said all those years earlier. It was terrible. I stabbed myself with a pencil and told my mother my cousin did it because I didn't want to share my toys with her anymore. I was 6. I slept with a man knowing that his wife was 3 months pregnant with their first child. It took me a very long time to come to terms with my behavior and how it affected them. In the late 1990s, walking down the street in a strange town in Oklahoma with a friend after a night out, we both found ourselves facing some unexpected situation. As we passed a tavern patio, some intoxicated individuals started harassing us for no apparent reason. At first, I dismissed them as drunk morons. However, everything changed when one of them decided to spit on me. In a moment of, I guess, what I would call rage instinct, I climbed to the top of the patio fence and ended up punching the walking spittoon goon square in the eye. To my surprise, he fell to the ground, sounding almost like a child crying. That wasn't even the worst part. As a smoker at the time, my nearly finished cigarette cherry landed directly in his eye socket. To this day, I have no idea what happened next or how it affected him since we both got the hell out of the town. I often wonder about his vision and what his life is like now. Honestly, I hope it did not have any long-term effects or damage. I also hope he's doing better in life. Just don't spit on people, dude. I helped plan a murder that they actually ended up carrying out behind my back. I tried to drown a kid back when I was in elementary school. I don't know what took me. He was here, and I put my entire weight on his shoulders and kept him underwater. Thankfully, I was stopped by our teacher and rightfully grounded. I still don't know to this day, 20 years later, why I did that. Oof. Accidentally killed my kitten as a small child. It was nasty and didn't want to play with me, so I thought, well, nasty humans go to prison, so I'll put the kitten in the nearest enclosure. Unfortunately, that was in the washing machine. The poor thing suffocated. I can never forget what I did. Me and a mate of mine sat in a lazy river in a water park and just watched our logs float and scare people. We were about 11 years old. Surfer rats. This wasn't even the worst of what we done. Can't believe the shit we used to do. 16 years old. Walking on the bike track with a friend, high in the sky for whatever reason. Pregnant lady on a bike ringed her bell. We panicked, and my buddy stepped right in front of her. She fell hard to the ground and was clearly upset and confused. To top it all off, my uncle passed by right after, said hello, and got the hell out of there. Hopefully the baby was okay. When I was 21, I got wasted on jelly vodka, offended numerous people, and generally made a complete jackass out of myself. It took several years to live down the shame, self-loathing, and guilt. I'm just glad my friends knew me better and gave me a second chance. We've all moved on since then. I hooked up with a married man. I was 10 at a sleepover with my best friend and their cousin. Late that night, the cousin R''d me. I came from an abusive environment, so while I was really shocked, I wasn't scared. It never crossed my mind that he could have been abusing them, too. About a month later, I went over again to get out of my house, and he R''d them, then I saw it. I was threatened, and so I told no one. The abuse continued for 2 years before we finally went to the family together. I will always regret that. I was arrested for 2 very serious driving offenses when I was facing 18 months in jail for. I was really upset that my high school girlfriend dumped me for some guy she worked with, and I had found out that his parents had passed away due to a murder-suicide. This was back in the AIM days, and I went on and found his screen name and just laid into him that his parents didn't love him enough, and that's why his dad did what he did and left him alone with no one to love him. I instantly felt like shit, but the damage was done. I still feel bad after all these years. When I was 6 years old, my buddy and I decided to put a big boulder on a seesaw to see if we could make it catapult. After all, we were just kids. I was a pretty weak kid and couldn't get a good grip on it. Suddenly, I accidentally dropped it, and my friend's hands got caught underneath the boulder in the hard cement ground. He started screaming, and in a panic, I just ran away. He ended up stuck like that for hours. I felt terrible, but in that moment, I didn't know what to do. It was a tough lesson learned, and something I'll never forget. Being the third party in a relationship. I was shocked and couldn't believe why I had done that on purpose. I met this guy, he showed interest and said that he liked me, and at the time I didn't respond because I was so scared of love. However, we still had many calls every day, and gradually my heart fell in love with him, but my mind said I couldn't do that. I suspected that he had a girlfriend when he told me about her. I thought that they had broken up or were preparing to, but he didn't. I was so lonely. I even don't have a friend, so I received his care and delayed my question about his relationship. That sucks. Finally, he told me that he had a big fight with his girlfriend before he met me, and now he realized his mistake. I decided to block each other. Yeah. Now I feel so guilty and ashamed. I was so selfish to keep everyone's care without thinking. I knew I wouldn't be his girlfriend even if they ever really broke up. I was so lonely and stupid. As an accident that scared me, I cut my finger while cutting some oranges. The worst things I've ever had when I was 4, slammed my head on a stool and my head sprayed blood. It definitely wasn't as bad. The difference was I understood that I had been injured. I used my tried and true strategy of putting pressure on it and slapping on a massive band-aid. But when that didn't work, I panicked. When I was younger, around 9 or 10, I saw an injured baby bird next to my house. Then I saw a big rock next to it, and for no reason, I picked up this big heavy rock and dropped it on the baby bird. I don't even know why I did it. I was a really dumb kid, and I can still see and hear the poor bird. I still self-harm on the occasion, but one time I went too far and self-harmed on my leg, making a scratch 16 inches long, and went from my ankle to a few inches past my knees. I shoplifted as a teen. We'll end it with this next one because this one's pretty serious. When I was 12, I killed my father because he abused my mother and me, but he was okay with my other siblings. But because I was the future man of the house, he thought it was okay to lock me in the shed and leave me there overnight and hit me with a horsewhip and push me off the stairs. But one night when I heard my mother crying, I wanted to see what was wrong. Turns out my mother had it just as bad. I saw my father standing there with the same horsewhip, hitting my mother, so that I was standing there with my little 12-year-old body. But I had an idea. Behind him in my reach was the cabinet where we kept our cooking knives. So my first instinct was to grab the first and the best knife just to threaten him. But when I saw the pain of my mother, I just stabbed him, and I immediately regretted it because he started to lose a lot of blood. So my mother called the cops and an ambulance. When he arrived, my father went with the ambulance, and me and my mom and the police, my siblings, were at the sleepover, so they didn't know what was happening until the next day. But while me and my mother were at the police station, she explained everything to them, so nothing really happened, no case, no nothing, but me and my mom got past it. But my siblings heard the news. They hated me because the only father they knew was kind and fun, but I told my mother not to tell them the truth, so it wouldn't affect their childhood. But growing up, I had no friends because of the lies my siblings spread, but that didn't get in the way. I passed with a 4-point GPA and graduated from an IT school after graduation. I built a business, and it worked. I am not a millionaire, but I have got more than enough money. But it all crashed down at my sister's wedding. I don't know why I was invited, but I reluctantly came, and it went good until the reception. My now brother-in-law came up to me and started to make jokes that I was not the type of guy to get angry by those sorts of things, but they crossed the line when they called me a killer. Apparently my sister told him, but I ignored it until my siblings joined him eventually. My mother had enough and told them the truth and started to cry and apologize, and I accepted it. But my brother-in-law didn't believe my mom, so we got records of what happened, and eventually we got pretty close, and now we all have dinners together. But I still wish they had a nice father for their childhood. Well, that's pretty deep, so we're going to stop with that one there. I'd say I hope you enjoyed this video, but I don't know if it's really one of those duties you want to enjoy. It's more just something to be thought-provoking and get other people's experiences, understand sometimes where they're coming from. Yeah, pretty deep, pretty dark, some of those, but I do hope you enjoy some of these videos. And if you do, leave a like, maybe, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things. But thank you for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.